the Smok UDCT tank. There are two sizes available. You've got the larger 6mm size, and you've got the smaller 3.5mm, which probably is better for an ego type e-cig. I'm going to deal with the larger one here, which is probably more your lava tube size. Now these are basically a wickless cartomiser. You've got a central tank that contains filler material and a coil, a surrounding tank that you put liquid in, and mouthpiece. This one has some clever features and is very well designed. At the bottom here you've got a little locking plate. Now that is very good because it means it won't come off basically when you pull it while it's attached to your e-cig. So undo that little locking plate, and a further great little feature is, if you can see that, it's got edging, it's got flat edges there which lock that into place and stop it twisting. That means it won't twist while it's on your e-cig. So again, another great little feature of this. So if we just withdraw the cartomiser, which is the central tank that contains the coils, out a bit, I'll show you really some other tools you would need. You'd probably definitely need this. That's a Carto punch, if I can show it to you clearly, and that's used to make little holes in this to allow extra e-liquid through. And what is also really useful are these little drip tip filling tools. They help by, when you come to fill these, what you need to do is you need to pull this out slightly to create a space in there that you can get your bottle of e-liquid in and fill up the outside. Now sometimes it's hard to get it back up into the hole correctly, so one of these little things is pretty useful because you just insert it into the top and you could just push down on it. It creates a big gap here at the top to fill with e-liquid, but it also cuts off the top of the cartomiser and stops e-liquid running in, so you can fill the tank all the way up. And when it comes to reinserting and pushing it back in, it just guides the whole cartomiser back to the top. So yeah, it's a really useful tool that just makes it a bit easier. Now if we look at how to basically get this thing set up, I'll take out the cartomiser and put the tank out. Stop it rolling around. This little cartomiser contains either 1 or 2 coils, and they come in different resistances. One coil is probably good for an ego type non-variable voltage e-cig, and dual coils, yeah, loves high volts and gives off lots of vapor. Inside, if you can see there, is some filler material, and in the middle is a hole there that contains the 2 coils. Now it already comes with one little hole here which lets the e-liquid into it, but ideally it really needs extra holes in there. So I'm gonna do that, and the way we do that is with a hole punching tool. So you just very simply undo the punch, the screw here, slide your cartomiser in, and then pick a spot where to punch a hole into the side. Now everyone's got their preferences to how many holes to put in, where to put them in, and it really depends on the kind of e-liquid you're using. So if you're using a really thick VG based e-liquid, you're probably going to want 3 or 4 holes at least, quite big. If you're just using a normal PG, yeah, I like it with 2 holes, but some people might just find 1 hole enough. You can see the little pre-punched hole. I don't know if you can see it clearly, just there. That's probably as low as you want to go, so you want it a bit higher than that, and you don't want to go too high, because when it's in the tank and it's only half full of liquid, that hole will be just exposed and you'll be drawing air through. So it's good to keep them in the lower bit, but a good spread. So I'm just going to select a spot, twist, and you'll hear it punch a hole there, big, and I'll just do an extra half a turn just to increase the size of that hole, and that's it, done. An extra hole for e-liquids to get into there and keep it nice and moist inside. Put another hole in another spot. There, you hear that click where it bursts the metal, and just half a turn more, and that should, another hole there, and 2 holes is probably enough for a good thin liquid. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So that's done, quick and simple. Next you've got to prime these. All kind of cartomisers need priming before you use it, and that just means getting this filler in there nice and soaked and wet. So what I'll do is, you've got to basically keep it at an angle, add just a few drops at a time so that it soaks in to the top there. I'm not sure how well we can see it with the light. Avoiding the central hole, because if it goes down the central hole it's just going to come out at the bottom. And I'll just add a few drops, rotate, let it soak in, add a few drops, rotate, let it soak in, add a bit more. It's good to take your time, get it nice and wet at this stage. Add a bit more. There is a quick way of doing it, which is just putting a toothpick to block the hole in the middle lightly, and then just pour it in and let it soak in. But I find this way quite easy and a bit satisfying. The reason I punch the holes before is I can sometimes see the colour change when I know the liquid's sunk down enough, so it lets me know that it's reached the bottom, and I'll just keep going. You could take a good 20 to 30 drops in one of these small cartomisers. Just let it soak for a few minutes. Soak for a bit longer. Just keep doing it. Basically you'll know when it's full because it will either start leaking at the bottom, which is quite natural once it's overfilled, and also it won't drain away inside so quickly. The sponge won't absorb it. It will look like an almost shiny layer of liquid there that hasn't quite soaked in, and it means the sponge is pretty full. And you can always look at the sides here. Sometimes for fun I'll just put a few drops there and you'll see it just soak in. Don't know why, just for fun. And let a few more to get it nice and wet. And then it goes soaking in. Yep, that's probably nice and moist inside. Now these come with a little rubber cap, and I'm not too sure how well it works, but what you can do is put this inside, and it's supposed to keep it all moist. It's got a little dip in, it's very hard to see, at the top, and probably flat side first and push it in, and that would just seal it off and help it drain back. I don't really tend to use it at all, but if you want to, you can. Next, it's just as simple as putting this cartomiser into your tube, into your tank body. It just slots in. It might be a bit tough where you've bent it out of shape by punching extra holes. Just test it all goes in fully, which it does, and then I'll withdraw it again. just a bit to fill it. So you can see it's halfway, a bit out there, I can fill it. Now the problem comes is you can only fill it up to that point. Any further it just starts pouring down the middle. So you've got to have it as close to the top that you can get your bottle of e-liquid and pour it in. Okay, and that's easy with these needle ones, which is really pretty much necessary for this. So you just kind of poke it in the side and fill it up, or you can use one of these little filler tools just here, and that I find just easier, and it makes the job so much better, and it helps you push it out again. There, blocks off the entrance, and I could just fill it up now. And that's it. Nice and full. Good to have some tissues necessary, because a bit can come out the bottom or the top, and you pretty much want to wash your hands afterwards. Make sure the locking nut is flat. Put the locking plate back on, and then you would dry it with a tissue, and you're pretty much good to go. Give it a bit of a clean. This juice does go everywhere. Put the mouthpiece back on. Put it onto your device, and that is the Smok UDCT tank. Let me get that out of the way. Filled up. Looks nice, vapes beautifully, a lot of vapor. If you want to use the narrow tank for the Ego e-cig, that's fine, get it with one coil. If you're using it on a large variable voltage, you can the replacement cartomisers get dual coils, but a lot of vapor, a bit more muted taste than say a wicked device, but the trade-off is loads of vapor and throat hit, and it's basically one big clearomiser with a wickless cartomiser in the middle, the Smok UDCT tank.